Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name's Dr. Sharon Scambry, and I'm here today to talk about international business. We're working from the Charles Hill 2021 text, and we're focused today on Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is about global production and supply chain management. So let's share the screen here and we shall get going. All right. So there's 6 learning objectives associated with this chapter. We want to be able to explain why global production and supply chain management decisions are centrally important to many global organisations. We want to explain how country differences, production technology and production factors all affect the choice of where to locate production activities. We want to recognise how the role of foreign subsidiaries in production can be enhanced over time as they accumulate knowledge. We want to identify the factors that influence a firm's decision of whether to source supplies from within the organisation or from a foreign supplier. We want to understand the functions of logistics and purchasing within global supply chains. And lastly, we want to describe what is required to efficiently manage a global supply chain. So let's begin by talking about value creation activities. So production is a value creation activity. Production includes activities that are involved in creating the product, in producing the product. Supply chain management is also value creation. And supply chain management is all about the integration and the coordination of logistics, purchasing, operations and market channel activities from the stage of raw material through the process to the end customer. Okay, if we look at strategic objectives that are involved with production and supply chain management, we can talk about total cost or we can talk about total quality. So when we are moving goods, raw materials through our production process to the end stage of a finished good, we want to ensure that our total cost is as low as possible for the value provided to the end customer. Another strategic objective that we could consider is with regards to quality. And while we want to reduce costs, we want to increase quality. And we do this by establishing standards within the system, standards to eliminate defective raw materials, component parts, and products from the process and the supply chain. Now, importantly, we want to embed both the emphasis on total cost or increased quality in both upstream and downstream as supply chain activities, right? So upstream is about the supply chain processes in moving the raw materials through to the production facility. So we're talking about suppliers here, upstream activities. And this is also called inbound supply chain. Downstream is the portion of the supply chain from the production facility to the end customer. And here we're talking about wholesalers and retailers, and it's also called outbound supply. All right, now, improved quality control reduces costs. So reducing cost, increasing quality, these two things are not completely independent. Improved quality control, reduces cost because it increases productivity. It also lowers rework and scrap costs, and it reduces warranty costs and time investment. So here we've got that graphically represented, this relationship between quality and costs, right? So when we are aiming to increase our quality, we're improving our performance reliability. So this increases productivity, lowers our rework and scrap costs, and it lowers our warranty costs where we have to fix a faulty product. Increasing the productivity and lowering the rework and scrap costs lowers our manufacturing costs. Lowering the warranty costs lowers our service costs. And both of these things increase our profit margin. Now, Edwin Deming was famous for his implementation of total quality management in Japan, in Japanese manufacturing post-World War II. Total quality management, also referred to as TQM, is a philosophy that focuses on improving quality. It uses statistics to reduce defects, boost productivity, eliminate waste, and cut costs. Okay. Right. Now, when we are operating a global organization, one way that we can improve quality is meet international standards. Now, there's a certification process known as ISO 9000, and it's about focusing attention on improving the quality of the product as well as the quality of the processes. If you are doing business with an organization in the European Union, you must be ISO 9000 compliant. And there are other international objectives that must be met. For example, accommodating demands for local responsiveness and responding quickly to shifts in customer demand. Right, the question of where to produce. Well, we have to look at various factors from country to country. And these varying factors include political and economic systems, as well as culture, of course, and the relative factor costs. They will also differ from country to country. We're going to look at location economies. We're going to look at trade barriers, formal and informal, transportation costs, rules and regulations, as well as exchange rates. The question of where to produce also needs to take into account technological factors. Fixed costs involved with technology, and the minimum efficient scale, which is about the level of output at which the scale economies are exhausted. And here we've got that graphically represented as the number of costs increase as the volume increases, the costs decrease. Let me say that again. As the quantity of the product that you are manufacturing increases, the unit costs decrease, but then it plateaus out. Technological factors will also enable flexible manufacturing and mass customization. And this means reduced setup times for complex equipment. It increases utilization of individual machines through better scheduling. It improves quality control at all stages of the manufacturing process, and it enables companies to customize products to demands of small consumer groups, so market niches. Production factors to consider when we're asking where should we produce. These include product features, so value to weight ratio will influence transportation costs, and then there's the question of standardization versus adaptation. So there are recognizable universal needs, but you know, where is your organization on that domain? When we're deciding where to produce, we want to, of course, consider the location of production facilities in terms of, is it better to centralize or is it better to decentralize? Is it better to have our production facilities all in one place, or is it better to shift them out to the various foreign markets that we are doing business with? There are hidden costs of locating your production facilities in foreign markets. These include high employee turnover, shoddy workmanship, poor quality standards, and low productivity. Beyond the where to produce question, we have the make or buy question or decision. So whether to make in-house or buy from a supplier and bring it in, this make or buy decision is made at both the strategic level and the operational level. And at the strategic level, we want to focus on the long term. And at the operational level, we're going to be probably more short-term focused. The make decision can result from issues of product success, specialized knowledge, strategic fit, and production capacity. Inventory planning is also critically important in the make or buy decision. Here we've got a graphic that is showing us when is it operationally favorable to make in-house. Okay, so we're going to start with what's it going to cost us? What's our emphasis on quality? We can control it more if it's in-house. What's the level of intellectual property that's involved with manufacturing this widget? Are there a limited number of suppliers? Do we have excess capacity? Do we want this level of control? And do we have assurance of continual supply? What are the industry drivers? And therefore, what is our decision with regards to producing in-house? This graphic is showing us when is it operationally favorable to buy and bring it in, buy from a supplier. So of course we start with the cost again. We might look at implementing a multi-source policy so that we're not overly dependent on any one supplier. Maybe we have a lack of expertise in-house. Maybe the supplier's core competencies are far beyond what we have in-house. Maybe we only want a small volume. Maybe our inventory planning suggests that it's better to buy and bring it in. Maybe we have a brand preference. Maybe it's a non-essential item, and therefore we're able to decide whether it's a good idea to buy it and bring it in. Okay, let's talk about global supply chain functions. Okay, global logistics. The core activities of global logistics include distribution center management, inventory management, packaging and materials handling, transportation, and reverse logistics. So there's very specialized fields in each of these bullet points on this slide. Specialized expertise involved with each of them. When we're talking about a global distribution center, this is a facility that allows customization of products for delivery anywhere in the world. It's used by manufacturers, importers, exporters, wholesalers, retailers, transportation companies, and custom agencies to store products and provide a location where customization can be facilitated. This is the order processing part of the order fulfillment process. When we're talking about global inventory management, we're talking about how much inventory to hold, in what form to hold it, and where to locate that hold in the supply chain. The strategy must effectively trade off the service and economic benefits of making products in large quantities and positioning them near to the market, to the customers, against the risk of having too much stock or the wrong items. Packaging is the container that holds the product itself, but when we're talking about global logistics, we're talking about primary level of packaging, secondary level of packaging, maybe transit packaging, and packaging not only protects, but it informs. Transportation represents the largest percentage of any logistics budget and refers to the movement of the raw material, the component parts, and the finished goods throughout the global supply chain. So we can recognize primary drivers in our transportation function. Distance, of course, transportation mode, whether we're going by air, land, or sea, the size of the load characteristics, and the oil prices. Reverse logistics is about the process of planning, implementing, and controlling the efficient, cost-effective flow of raw materials, in-process inventory, finished goods and related information from the point of consumption to the point of origin for the purpose of recapturing value or proper disposal. The goal of reverse logistics is to optimize the aftermarket activity or make it more efficient. So reverse logistics is an important part of the global supply chain. Purchasing has these multiple strategic levels. Level 1, the company engages in domestic purchasing only. Level 2, the company engages in international purchasing only as needed. Level 3, the company engages in international purchasing as part of the overall supply chain management strategy. Level 4, global purchasing is integrated across multiple global locations. And level 5 is when the organization is engaging in global purchasing that's integrated globally and across functional groups. Now, just-in-time inventory is a process that's used to reduce the cost of storage, the cost of inventory. So the role of just-in-time inventory is a logistics system that delivers parts to the production process as they are needed and not before. And so there's no need for inventory storage costs. Warehousing is reduced. So this strategy of just-in-time inventory speeds up the inventory turnover. It reduces the holding costs. It frees up working capital. It boosts profitability, and it can improve product quality. But the big but is that it leaves the organization without a buffer of inventory. Okay, so when we're looking at managing a global supply chain, electronic data interchange technology is very important, as is enterprise resource planning. And EDI, electronic data interchange, is the exchange of data, electronic data, between two or more organizations. And ERP, enterprise resource planning, is wide-ranging business planning and control systems that include supply chain related subsystems. There's other information technology that is very useful within our global supply chains. We want to be able to coordinate our global supply chains. Integration and coordination is critically important, and therefore the exchange of electronic data to facilitate that integration and coordination is critically important. We want to be able to share decision-making to create a more integrated, coherent, efficient, and effective global supply chain. So our operational objectives might be responsiveness, variance reduction, inventory reduction, shipment consolidation, quality, and life cycle support. So, of course, we have to work with our supply chain partners, and trust and commitment are extremely important in these global inter-organizational relationships. There is value between the nodes and the actors in the global supply chain. And this is a function of the cost, both money and non-monetary resources that are given up in return for a quality standard. Okay. We'll just remind ourselves here that total emphasis on reducing costs and increasing quality needs to be embedded in both upstream supply chain management as well as downstream supply chain management. So here we've got a graphic that is focused on upstream. So we're talking about our suppliers, but what is the role of the upstream supply chain agent here? Are they just acting as a vendor? If they are, then there's a low level of coordination and integration. If they're at the other end of the spectrum and they're operating more as a partner, then there is a high degree of coordination and integration, and the emphasis is on relationship between the supply chain partners. When we're talking about downstream relationships, again, is our supply chain customer, our wholesaler, our retailer, are they more in a buying role or are they more in a client role? So the buyer will have a low-level coordination and integration, so there's a transactional focus, and the client will have a high level of coordination and integration, so there's more of a relationship focus. Okay, so there you go. There is chapter 17. Thank you very much for your attention, and I do hope you'll join me again. Thank you. Bye.